with again a few of his friends from there, he went to co-found Crescendo Communications to focus on LAN switching, which was acquired by Cisco in 1993. This was the first acquisition of Cisco for $94.5 million. Exactly, I looked at Wikipedia today. I know in our marketing flyer it said 90 million, so it was 4.5 million more. But that's not the important part. What Crescendo did was it gave Cisco the foundation for getting into enterprise switching. And even today, Cisco is a leader in enterprise switching. Over, I think, last I knew about a year ago was 55 to 60% market share. And so that means it has made Cisco over tens and tens of billions of dollars over many, many years. So that's a great accomplishment with what Prem and his team did right from with the first acquisition at Cisco. Then after staying there for many years, he left with his friends Luca, Mario, and Sony to co-found Nova Systems, which was again acquired by Cisco in 2008 and establishing the product line, which is Nexus, as one of the leaders in data center market. So and after that, then last year, Prem decided that they have to go and disrupt again, do some disruptive stuff. You can ask him those questions, what he's going to do. So he's at it again with Mario and Luca with a new company called Insemi Networks. And so that's on the professional side. I wanted to find out, and Viz called me at 5 o'clock. He said that Sanjay and Prem are very good friends. So I should find out something, which I couldn't, because I asked Prem last Thursday when I met him. I said, would he like me to, ask someone to do an intro who knows him very well? He said, no, that's fine. So anyway, Sanjay told me nothing, you're going to be surprised at, but one thing he said is they go hiking to Mission Peak. Some of you who have hiked Mission Peak on Fremont, and I've done that with one of my friends, Shyam Das, over there. I didn't realize how old he is now recently, but I used to do it in the early 90s. And so in 90s, he and I used to hike there, and I think we used to get up there, probably it used to take 1.5 hours to get up there, and then on the way back about 40 minutes. But by the time you reach Mission Peak, if you haven't done it, please make sure you do it at least once. I know the last portion, half a mile, once you reach on top, I always felt I'm on top of the world. Even if someone pushed me, I would have gone flying down. I wouldn't have realized. You really feel so good there. But the point is, when Prem does that hiking with, I guess, with Sanjay is one of our board members. He's not here right now. So looks like on the way back, it's not enough. He runs. So that's a tidbit I got from Prem about that. But in addition to his professional things, he's obviously involved with a lot of philanthropic things and community services, including Birla Institute of Technology and Science alumni organization. In fact, was very key in connecting whole BITS network with the internet and the email system over there. And at this time also he's involved with another project called BITS Connect 2.0, which is basically providing telepresence to all BITSA campuses. As I don't know if some of you know that BITS Plani has a campus in Dubai also, BITS Plani Dubai it's called, and then they have new campuses in Hyderabad and Goa. And when I was there in early 80s, there was one campus, Plani. So all those great activities, thanks to Prem for that. One tidbit I remember, so now I think in 1997 in one of my startup companies, so I found out Prem was from BITS Plani since there was no LinkedIn in those days, right? So I called him, being shameless, so I just said I have to call and get hold of him. So he answered, I said, I'm from Plani, I would like to come and meet with you. So Prem said, okay, come over here tomorrow at 6:30 in the morning. So then I found out that the best way to get hold of him is call him early morning. Well, that's a secret, so hopefully not many of you will bother him now. But so I knew when to get hold of him, either at least 6:30, after 8 he is not, because he is in meetings or busy with his stuff. So with that, I would like to invite Prem to share his amazing, exciting, colorful entrepreneurial journey with us. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And it's really an honor to be here in front of all. It's really an honor to be here in front of all of you. Some of you, I think, know me quite well, and some of you probably going to hear the first time. So there may be repeat for some of you. who I know for a long period of time. What I thought I will do is share with you the experience which I had, but at the same time what I learned out of those, and maybe that may be useful to you also from their point of view. So I'm actually grew up in Delhi, Old Delhi, which is the heart of Chandni Chowk. Some of you, if you are from Delhi, you probably know that particular part. Grew up there, grew up in a family which was in business. The business was making a transition. We used to have a turban business. The turban, as you know very well, and it was well established business for many, many years. But when India got the independence, all the kingdoms which were there, just in Rajasthan itself, there were 600 kings, or kingdoms in that particular sense, small kingdoms. Each one used to use those turbans. And actually they were all made out of gold and silver. So my grandfather, they used to make the wire inside the house in Chandni Chowk in Kinari Bazaar. And Kinari Bazaar, as you know, is related to that particular name itself. Kinari is the Jari part of it, if you want to think about it. So they used to make those. So the thing which is, when I was going to go to college, always this debate goes into the house that, what are you going to do after the college? Job? No jobs, okay? Better get into the business. The thing which was, in my case, so my brothers, my two elder brothers, they end up, going to college, getting their degrees, but back into business. But at my time, because I was the second to youngest, my sister is the youngest, at that particular time, the business are going through this transition changes because it was declining very rapid phase. Because the kingdoms are gone, the weddings only use one turban per year. Otherwise, the king used to be changing they don't used to wear the same turban the next day. I don't know if you guys know this fact or not. Okay. So that transitions, at that particular time, I told my dad, I don't know what we're going to do because the business was going down. Last day of basically the admission day, I went myself to Pilani, filed the application, got admitted. I was surprised that, and I had to sign for my dad because I couldn't get him because he was basically saying that he's not interested that I should go to college. He didn't even know I went to Pilani, by the way. So that was interesting. I learned at that particular time that, the education is very important, and this was really I got from my mother because she was telling that she didn't get that opportunity. Said, I want to make sure that you get whatever you want to do with it. And that's where my journey to Pilani started. First year in Pilani was very interesting. Two of us, a friend of mine, Jitendra Singh, he's in LA now. So we decided, let's go to Europe. He says, okay. So he got this idea, he got this article about hitchhiking. So I said, fine, we'll do hitchhiking. I didn't even know what hitchhiking means, to be honest. Okay. So we started that, okay, we will figure it out, and I didn't have passport, so he helped me because his father was in army at very senior level. So we decided to hitchhike, okay, to go to Europe. And it was really funny. We said, okay, how much money we are going to spend? So this is another thing which I learned is that obviously, I said, sure we can afford to spend, but the idea was not to spend anything. I said, how do we do that? Okay, we said, okay, we'll figure it out. So we started this particular journey we didn't want to fly because we could fly to anywhere in Europe. We went from Delhi to Amritsar by train. We took a flight from Amritsar to Kabul. Okay, was also interesting because Pakistan won't let us go through Pakistan. Otherwise, we didn't have to fly anywhere. But I just tried to hitchhike through Pakistan itself because that was possible at that particular time. This is, I'm talking about 1968 time frame, 69 actually, end of 68. That was my first year in Pilani. And it was very interesting. We went to the Europe and, we got a job. You won't believe it. When I got back, I had $300 positive cash in my hand. And how we did it? We stayed in the youth hostels, was $1 a night. But we didn't even spend that $1 because we ended up working in the youth hostel for 3 hours. To work at the front desk, sometimes cleaning, sometimes making beds, whatever it is. So it was another great experience. We did this 5 times, by the way. Every year, it became a routine that summer comes and here we are going to Europe. and we're going to do it. One story I want to tell you which was really interesting, and this is something we all need to learn from the entrepreneur perspective. Because to me, one thing I learned in India is a word which is called jugaad, and I'm pretty sure you heard about this. And every time you have to think about it, when you get into some situation or trouble, you do something related to that. So we were in Paris and waiting for a ride to get in, and it was very difficult, and Paris was always supposed to be difficult to get a ride. So we are 18 kilometers outside the city, and still having a hard time to find a ride to go to Lyon, which is another town in France itself. So we both were standing, and suddenly the idea came that if you are traveling with a girl, it's easy to get a ride. Okay? Now the friend of mine was a Sardarji. Okay? And he has long hair. So guess what we did? He opened up his hair. The only problem was he had a beard. So he turned around. So I was standing, doing like this to get the ride. He was standing next to me. It is all his hair goes up to the knees. And you won't believe it, 3 minutes later we got the ride. But the biggest shock was when he turned around. You can see the face of that guy. So that was, actually that experience gave me a lot of visibility of what goes on, particularly when you don't know the language. Because going to, for example, in this hitchhiking, you go through Iran, you go through Turkey, you go through Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, Austria, Germany. Most of these places, in small villages, people hardly speak English. So the best thing which we figured it out to deal with, communicate with the people is a piece of paper, and then you just draw. Okay? Draw a picture. If you want to go in a train station, we don't know how to say it, so we just draw a train on a piece of paper. And that is again to learn that there is nothing to stop you to do what you want to do. Not even the language, not even any barrier. So I think that is one thing which I learned, is that there is no barrier to entry as long as you're willing to do what you want to do. Okay? This is a very important lesson, which is, we use quite a bit later on as a part of it. Anyway, after I graduated from Pilani, I came down here, went to school at UC Davis, did my master's. I was interested in doing the PhD programs. I'm one of those which has never finished the PhD, because I was going to give the entrance exam. Here I get an interview call, which is I was not interviewed anywhere, actually. As a matter of fact, sitting in my professor's office, discussing something about the initial exam for the PhD program. And suddenly I get a call from somebody who's looking for somebody who has done some work on microprocessor. So my thesis was on microprocessor, actually. At that particular time, this was a very early stage. Now we are talking about 1975 time frame, 76 time frame. And Intel just came out with a bunch of processors, so I thought this would be a great idea to write something on the microprocessors and say how you use it, which is now obviously is a different story altogether. It changed the whole perception, and a lot of the Silicon Valley is there because of that particular transition which was going on at that particular time. So I got a call sitting in the office. I had no resume. By the way, I never made a resume so far. I don't have a resume. Okay, that's another thing. So I got a call, and I went for an interview at BNR, which was in Palo Alto. It was a lab. BNR, I don't know if you know this or not, it doesn't exist anymore, but it used to be Bell Northern Research. It was a research part of the Bell Canada and Northern Telecom. And BNR was really supposed to be the research arm or R&D for Northern Telecom. At that time was equivalent of Bell Labs, actually. They were combined together, but they split when Canada split from the US from the point of view of Bell Labs. So Bell Canada became separate, and this is the way the BNR was created at that particular point. So this was a lab in Palo Alto, very close to Stanford. I thought this would be a great opportunity to learn something practical before I go back and do my PhD program. So I went and worked for BNR. Every year they keep on telling me, yeah, you can go back and do the PhD, but that never started and never ended in that particular sense. But I did a bunch of courses from Stanford. Actually, I had enough courses from Stanford that they were ready to say, okay, why don't you finish this and get your another master's degree? I said, I'm not interested, I want to do the PhD. And my career goal was to go and teach. That's what I wanted to do. coming out from Bitspilani, the UC Davis, they were all campus towns, and I really love that particular environment. But anyway, here I go, I start working in B&R, and then the idea came is to do a startup. We started a company called David Systems. By the way, David is nobody's name. It was a distributed architecture for voice, image, and data. And literally our name was D.A. People said, you guys don't know anything about marketing. You cannot have a dot in the name. So we said, fine. Okay, we changed the name from D.A. to David. And then people always ask the question, who's David? We have no David. And this one was very well funded by the top-notch VCs, a company which was supposed to be changing. The transition was going on, as you know very well, from analog voice to digital voice, which was happening in late 70s. This was a transition which was happening, and Carl, Ricky, I'm pretty sure you're aware of this, when the Ethernet spec came out in 77, people were trying to say that which one is going to win, the PBX or the Ethernet. And obviously, the result is very obvious. But we were still betting that there's something which you can do on the PBX world, which is the telecom industry, to make sure the data carries over the voice. Okay? So the question was, is the voice will be carried over data network or data will be carried over the voice? And we were from the industry which was from the telecom world. We said, okay, let's bring the voice, data inside the voice. So that's why David started from to bring the voice as well as the image, the video part of it. And Lisa machines were just coming out at that particular time. Actually, Xerox was working on those. So we thought this would be a great opportunity to bring those and connect to the back of the telephone. Okay. So we built this particular product. It was very well funded. We had the top-notch people from the industry. And VCs poured a lot of money into this one. More than $100 million. And I'm talking about this is the time frame is 83 to 89. Okay. We built a great product, and I thought that was the best, from my career perspective, the engineering effort which we put together. But the problem was it didn't succeed. Now the question is why it didn't succeed? Because we were all engineers. We thought that if you build the best technological product, it will sell. Okay. We didn't realize one problem, very simple problem, but it was the biggest problem. The product was very good, it worked very well. We deployed it in Xerox buildings in downtown LA, those towers, Arco towers in downtown. And people really like it in the very beginning and stuff like that. The main problem was the product, the environment where you have to sell it. Okay, you need to convince three people. You need to convince the voice guy, which doesn't talk to the data guy. And you need to convince the video guy, which doesn't talk to both the other two. Now, unless all three agreed, they will not buy it because it's not cost justifiable to sell it to one. Okay? It was not cost effective if we just need to use voice because you can buy a cheaper product just supporting the voice. It was not cost effective if you just need to buy a data switch. But if you combine together, it was very cost effective and it was very... Second problem was, the voice guy said, if I'm going to use it, the data guy has nothing to do with it. So our CLI or all the interfaces which we had was not really good because they didn't want it to, no, this interface is commonly used, but only voice guy can have the access to it. For the data guy, you need to do a separate CLI, and then for the video guy, you have to do something separate. And think about it, a common thing which is being used for an integrated solution, you want a separate thing. We didn't have a choice, we stopped doing it. We started doing this. But again, I think the problem was that it was very challenging and we realized, I wish we knew this going forward in the beginning, we would have done in phases instead of doing all together at once. Okay? So the thing which we learned out of this is that it's a very well-funded company, very good engineering team, very successful delivered product, but it failed miserably. Later on, by the way, the David Systems, we left in 1989, but the company basically got sold to Chipcom, became part of the 3Com later on. And the reason for that is because we started developing some Ethernet technologies, Ethernet hubs and other stuff, and then it survived from that point of view. So that was a great experience. We learned from this one is that, by the way, the engineering or the technology is not the recipe for success. These are the ingredients, which is you need to make sure that you have the right thing. But then there is something which is you need to understand the market, you need to understand who's going to buy it, who's your buyer, who's your customers, and you need to understand how it's going to fit into the current environment. Very expensive mistakes, and we felt really bad about it because most of the VCs, we had a very good relationship, and we thought that we definitely owe them something back in that particular sense. So we said, okay, we're not going to give up. That's another thing which you need to learn. That never give up, doesn't matter what happened. Okay? You have to keep on trying. Then I joined a small startup, Adaptive. I don't know if some of you probably remember. It was a spin-in from NET. And they wanted to do, the world was, everything is going to go ATM. You guys know in the Valley is that technology has only life for a few years, and it comes and goes. Okay. At that particular time, I became pretty savvy from the business perspective. I joined that company. I realized that the product they're building is the middle part of it. You need to have the end part, which is the desktop ATM, and you need some service provider to build the ATM network before you can use the gateway. Okay. And 9 months later, I told them, sorry, I'm not convinced this is the right strategy. I got out of the company and started a company called Crescendo. Okay. And it was going backwards because Crescendo, what we were doing was not ATM, but was a technology based upon FTDI, and what we called it CDDI. We wanted to run the FTDI technologies on a star wire in a copper so that we can make it cheaper, and it's not a ring, which is a problem to deploy, to make it sure that you can use the star wire, which we learned from the Ethernet world. Okay, that would be the right thing to do. So we started this. A lot of people called me and said, don't you think you're going backwards from a technology perspective? I said, to me, it's not technologies. We want to be successful in the business. And it doesn't really matter what technologies will take us there. Anyway, we started CDDI, FTDI, then we started doing this Ethernet switching, actually. Cisco was looking at some company to buy out for Ethernet switching. We were competing with another company which was in the Valley itself, and they basically take both companies' product and send it to Boeing, actually. And Boeing was supposed to test the product out, and Boeing independently tested the product out. They found the product which we built was better than the other company's product. That was the reason Cisco decided to buy us. We became part of Cisco. This was in '93. It was very interesting that when we became part of Cisco, the Cisco salespeople wanted us to sell the layer 3 routing, okay? And we were layer 2 switch.